Today we will learn how to crochet this raffia bucket hat. It is crocheted in waistcoat stitch. We begin in the center, grow, and then we'll work the sides that are crocheted in rounds. And like we can see here, our scar, we close each round with a slip stitch and begin each round with a chain 1, so that creates this scar. Afterwards we will sew the label with a D. The D is for hanging your hat to your bag, belt, or anywhere, and we'll add this colorful cord so you can tie it under your chin. So let's start. So what do we have in the kit? We have raffia in black or natural color. We have the colorful lace so that you can tie the hat. We have a number 3 crochet hook, a needle and thread, plastic D, and an iota label. Let's start working. To begin knitting, we need the raffia and the hook. I'll open the raffia where the sticker is. I like to put the raffia or any yarn that I'm using lower than where I'm sitting. So if I'm working on it at a desk, I'll put it on the floor. So I'll take some raffia, I'll take the tail of it, and I'll let some unravel. As I said before, the whole hat is crocheted in waistcoat stitch. I'll show it here, but it is a bit difficult to see because the raffia is very thin. So in the same playlist this video is in, there is another short tutorial for waistcoat stitch, and there you'll be able to see more easily where exactly you need to go in with the hook. Of course, I'll show it here as well. So we start with a magic ring. For this, I'll put on my palm the short end of the raffia and wrap the long part of the raffia around my hand to create this X. I'll take the hook and I'll pass it under the first thread of raffia and then using it, the next thread slowly under the other one and rotate my hand like this to create a little loop. Now I'm holding everything with my fingers and I'll take out my left hand. To close this, to lock it in place, I'm chaining 1. I'm zooming in. To make sure that the magic ring works, I want to pull on the short thread and see that the magic rings become smaller. Okay, so now I can let it go back a bit because I don't want to close it yet. The magic ring enables us to close the knitting as close as we can and not have a hole in the middle of the hat. We'll soon see how I'll close it and the hole will be almost invisible. So in the first round, I'm going to work 6 single crochets. So I'm going into the magic ring with my hook, take the yarn. I have 2 loops on my hook. I take the yarn again and pass the yarn through both loops at once. This is my first single crochet. I'll do 5 more. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 5. Sorry. Here I see these V's. That's the way I count my single crochets. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I can minimize my magic ring now as much as I can. I pull strongly and I see that I don't have a hole. At the end of the first round, I slip stitch into the first single crochet from this round. Here I'm already working in waistcoat stitch, which means this is my first stitch here. I see the top V and the V of the body of the stitch right there, so I go in between the 2 arms of the first single crochet V. go in the center of the stitch and go out in the back, also in the center of the stitch. So to slip stitch, I take the yarn and pass it directly through the stitch and the loop I have on my hook. That was my slip stitch. In the next round, I'm beginning round 2, I chain 1 and I stitch 2 waistcoat stitches in the same stitch. So this is like single crochet, but the difference is where I go in. So I've chained 1, and now I'll chain 2 waistcoat stitches into the same place as a slip stitch. The same place means here. Here. Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, yeah. This is my first one, and I'm going in the middle of the stitch. I'm taking the yarn again and passing it through, and another one in the same place. I'm stitching into the center of the stitch. 2 in the same place because I'm increasing in order to knit the base of the hat. So in the next stitch I'm here, this is the V, and I want to enter it, and I'm stitching again 2 waistcoat stitches, 1 and another one in the exact same place in the V. So that's 2. Because it's raffia and because waistcoat stitch is very strong and tight, don't knit too tightly because it's going to be strong anyway. I'm going into the third stitch, into the V, and I'm stitching 2 waistcoat stitches into it as well, like all the stitches in this round. So that was 1 and 2. Next V, 1 and 2. Next V, this is it, 1 and 2. Next V, 1 and another one. So if we work 2 stitches into each single crochet, and in the previous round, I'm tightening my loop for a second, and in the previous round I have 6 single crochet, now I need to have 12. So let's count them. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. What we are seeing here, which looks like another single crochet, this is my slip stitch, and this is my chain 1. So we'll skip these 2 in each round all through the hat. We will skip the slip stitch and the chain and close with a slip stitch into the first waistcoat of the previous round. So now to begin round 3, I need to finish round 2 with a slip stitch into the first waistcoat stitch here of the current round. I'm going into the V, taking the yarn directly through the loop that I have on my hook. That was my slip stitch. I'll chain 1 and begin round 3. These 2 chains, well, I'll always skip and not treat them like a stitch. So I'm beginning round 3. I'm still increasing. Increasing is when I work 2 stitches into 1 stitch from the previous round. In this round, I'll work 1 stitch in the first, 2 stitches in the next. 1 increase, 1 without. The first waistcoat stitch I'll work is into the same place where my slip stitch is. So it's here, right under where my hook is, not here. I'm working 1 waistcoat stitch. Sorry, in the first stitch I'll work 2 waistcoat stitches. So this was 1, and I'll do another one in the exact same place. In the next stitch, I'll work one stitch. This is my V, and I'm going into the center of it, 1. Okay? 1. In the next one, I'm working 2 stitches. This is the next one, right there. So that was 2. In the next one, 1. Two in the next one, into the V of the waistcoat stitch, and another one. And in the next one, I'll work 1 stitch. I'll work 1 into the next one. Then 2. So I'm going into the same place. And 1 in the next. I can always know, because it alternates between 1 and 2, the increasing. When I started with 2, I want to finish with 1. So this can be another way to make sure that I'm arriving at my slip stitch, which could look like a single crochet, and I'm finished. So I'm finished with 1 in this round, but I'm not there yet. So this is 2 and 1 in the last one. I should have 18 stitches because I'm always increasing by 6, so I should have 18, and I've reached my slip stitch and chain. This is my slip stitch, and this is my chain. Okay, so let's count. 18. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Great. To close round 3, I'm skipping the slip stitch and the chain, and I'm working a slip stitch into the first waistcoat stitch of the round. Okay, so I'm going in the center of the stitch, taking the yarn and passing it through the loop, and I'm going to tighten it. Now I'm chaining 1 to start round 4. In round 4, I'll work 1 waistcoat stitch in the same place as my slip stitch. One waistcoat stitch in the first one and in the next one. So this was my first, and in the next one also work 1. In the third stitch, I'll work 2 stitches, 1 and 2. So the increase is now in every third stitch I'm increasing, which means I'm working 2 stitches into the same stitch, and in 2, yeah, so 1, 1, and in the third stitch 2. This is what we'll do all around round 4. So this is really how we'll continue in all the rounds. I'll leave you here. The whole hat is knit like this, but the increases are in different places and less as we go along. The most important thing to notice is the slip stitch and the chain 1 at the end of each round. Please read the instructions carefully. We have drawings as well for whoever knows how to read them and prefers. Just make sure that you increase in the correct places. And I suggest, even though it can be annoying, count your stitches at the end of each round or a couple of rounds to make sure that you increased correctly. Good luck, we'll meet at the end of the hat. Enjoy yourselves. We're on the last round of our hat. We can see the so-called scar of the slip stitch and chain that we use to close every round. And we can see also the pattern that the waistcoat stitch creates. So I'm working one waistcoat stitch into every stitch in this round, no increasing, until I reach my slip stitch. I have one more. I suggest to count for the last time that we have 114 stitches at the end of this round. And we'll close it like we did up till now. Skip the slip stitch and chain and close with a slip stitch. Skip it and close with a slip stitch into the first single crochet of the round. Pass it through and we'll cut the yarn. Mine is already cut. We'll leave about 15 centimeters and we'll pull it through the slip stitch. Yes? Okay, so now we'll do what we call an invisible join. We want to have a nice edge here. So what we'll do is like this. I need to find the right angle. Okay, so I'm here. Where am I? I'm here. So I want to create an invisible stitch to make it look like all of the chains in the last row. So what I'm doing, I'm skipping one stitch. Okay. I'm skipping one stitch and I'm inserting the hook from inside out under the stitch. I'm taking the yarn from the outside into the hat. Okay, so this creates one side of the stitch. This one. Now I'm inserting the hook again from the inside out, but in the middle of the stitch, like this, in the middle, taking the yarn tail and pulling it into the hat. This also has a tutorial with a thicker yarn, which we also have here in the playlist if you want to look it up. So here I've created the invisible join and I can't see where the round ends. Now I want to hide the edges between the stitches. With the hook, I'll go under all kinds of stitches, like so, and pull the raffia tail through to hide it. I want to do it through about 6 or 7 stitches in this case. Sorry, I'm not in the frame. So I want to do a few more because I wasn't in the frame. Get in the frame. Okay, I'll do 2 more, just in case. And now we can cut it. We finished the part of the knitting of the hat. Now we'll see how to sew the label and attach the colorful cord. Good work! To sew the label, you need the label, needle and thread, and scissors. So I'm placing the hat like this. This is of course up to you and what you choose. I want the scar to be in the back. And I want the label in the center of one of the sides. For example, the left side. Okay, so I want the label here. So I'm moving the hat like this. And now my scar is right here. I want to sew the label here in the center. So I'll put the label through the D and I'll place it in the middle of the right side like I planned. Like this. I'm going to zoom in. Now I'm taking the needle and thread and I'll stitch through the hat in 2 corners. Oh, my knot wasn't good enough, sorry. So I'm going through the raffia. I'm stitching outside of the label, but you can stitch as you like. I'm going through the raffia and again to the same place. So we'll do this a few times. Go through the raffia, then through the label. A few more times and make a knot in the back. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing on the other corner. Now we'll see the colorful cord. So we are done with the label, and above the label there are 3 stitches, these 3 stitches. So I want to zoom out. I just wanted to point out the stitches because we're going to need them. So we need to cut out 2 cords that are 80 centimeters long. After we cut, we'll burn the edges if they're not already burned for you. Okay, like this. Now I want to count 19 rounds from the edge of the hat. 1, 2. Let's zoom in to see how we count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Okay. Here I have 3 stitches as well, which are directly above the 3 stitches from the label. I want to make my X directly above the label. On the other side I won't have the label, so I'll count 19 and use 3 that look most centered. So I'm taking my burnt edge and I'm inserting it from the inside of the hat to the outside, here. Okay, here. And I want 3 stitches in the middle. So the cord will go in the first stitch and go out in the 5th stitch. So I want to pass it like this. Now I want to count 4 rounds above round 23, which is round 19, which is 23. Okay? So I want to enter diagonally to make an X. Okay, so I'm pulling the yarn and inserting it to that stitch. Now I'll skip 3 stitches again and take the yarn out after them on the 5th stitch to my right, from the inside out. Okay, I need some cord here. Yeah, so I'm letting some go, and I'll do the last step. I'm counting 1, 2, 3 stitches and going diagonally into here, either with the hook or just push the edge through. You can make the stitch larger with the hook and then push the tail of the yarn through, of the cord. So this is our X, and this is I'm going to zoom out. The yarn inside, I want to tie, cut, and burn. Okay. Okay, now I can bring it where as close to the knot as possible. And I'll tie the other tail of the cord, cut, and burn. That's it. Now we'll do the same thing on the other side in the same way, and you're finished with the hat. Good work. Thank you for being with us. Just do it on the other side. Thank you.